What if the way a man moves in the stillness of the night reveals more about his heart than any whispered word ever could? Carl Jung, the legendary psychologist, believed that love wasn't merely spoken. It was something that seeped out unconsciously through moments of intimacy. The way a man holds you, how he looks at you, or even the rhythm of his breath when the world fades away, all of it can silently expose what's hidden deep in his heart. So how do you truly know it's more than just physical craving? Jung's insights into the unconscious mind point to 4 distinct, unmistakable signs, subtle, yet powerful behaviors that emerge only when a man is truly, deeply in love. Jung taught us that love isn't just an emotion. It's the merging of 2 souls where primal instinct and emotional truth rise unfiltered to the surface. When a man is emotionally bonded, his body begins to speak a truth he might not even consciously recognize. Today, we explore 4 intimate behaviors that, through the lens of Jungian psychology, reveal a love that goes far beyond attraction. These aren't mere habits. They are unconscious rituals of deep devotion. If any of this makes you pause and reflect, stay with us. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing so you won't miss the moments that speak what words often can't. Number 1, deep eye contact during intimacy. There's something hauntingly mystical about prolonged eye contact in moments of raw closeness. It goes beyond physical desire, tapping directly into the soul's core. Carl Jung often referred to the eyes as the windows to the soul, and not without reason. In his exploration of the unconscious, Jung saw the gaze as one of the few involuntary gateways into a person's inner world. While words can be curated or deceptive, the eyes expose what the mind may not yet dare to speak. When a man holds your gaze in a moment of vulnerability, it's not just a gesture of passion, it's an unspoken confession. He's not simply looking at you, he's allowing himself to be seen by you. And that act, letting someone truly see into him, is among the most profound surrenders a human being can offer. This kind of sustained eye contact is rare. It demands an extraordinary level of emotional presence. Many men shaped by cultural expectations learn to separate emotion from intimacy. Sex becomes a physical act, not a soulful connection. But when a man loves deeply, something shifts. The unconscious longing for genuine connection overrides old habits of detachment. His gaze lingers, not because he chooses to, but because something within him refuses to look away. In that moment, he's not just unclothed physically, he's exposed emotionally. Jung would call this theme at work, the inner feminine side of his psyche, which longs for depth, union, and soul-level merging. His eyes, in this case, become a bridge not between bodies, but between 2 unseen worlds. On the other hand, avoidance of eye contact can be just as revealing. A man who hides his eyes during intimacy may still desire or even care for you. But there's a wall, an emotional barrier yet to be dismantled. Maybe he fears what it means to be truly seen. Maybe he's shielding wounds he's not ready to confront. In Jungian terms, such avoidance often signals unresolved shadows, fears, traumas, unspoken parts of the psyche still trapped in silence. Because unlike language, the eyes can't lie. And so, for many, avoiding eye contact becomes a defense, a quiet way to remain in control. But when a man grants you that unbroken gaze, it speaks volumes. It means he trusts you with more than his body. He trusts you with his self, the imperfect, hidden, fragile version of him beneath every mask. There's a reason lovers instinctively close their eyes during a kiss, only to reopen them after, as if to confirm, once again, the truth of the person in front of them. That moment, silent and primal, is a reaffirmation. You're really here. and so am I. This is why deep eye contact is not only the first, but perhaps the most piercing sign of emotional truth. It's not something that can be rehearsed. It's not performance. It's presence, an unconscious offering. A sacred pause where two people exist completely unguarded. And in that space of unwavering gaze, love doesn't shout. It simply is. Number 2, prioritizing your pleasure over his own. In Jungian psychology, true intimacy is born through the reconciliation of opposites, the merging of two distinct selves into something greater than either alone. This sacred fusion, which Jung described as the Show, isn't about gratification. It's about the alchemy of two souls surrendering together. And nowhere does this sacred balance show more clearly than in the way a man gives pleasure when he's deeply in love. Lust is self-centered. It seeks its own satisfaction. Love, however, seeks communion. So when a man places your pleasure before his own, it's not just a sign of generosity. It's something deeper. It's an unconscious enactment of devotion. A silent vow your joy is his joy. Your fulfillment is inseparable from his. Jung believed the shadow, the suppressed, unconscious aspects of our psyche, often drive selfish desires. But when love enters, something shifts. The higher self emerges. It overrides those primal, reactive instincts. Delaying gratification becomes effortless, not from duty, but from desire to give. Because in those moments, giving is the reward. This is the union of opposites in its purest state. The masculine principle of pursuit blends with the feminine energy of receptivity. And in that union, sex becomes something sacred. Not an exchange, but a transformation. You'll recognize this in the way he pays attention, how he reads your responses like a sacred text, how he remembers what brings you alive, how his joy becomes entangled in yours, and none of it feels forced. It's not performance, it's instinct, as if your pleasure echoes in his body. Compare this with encounters driven purely by desire. Lust consumes, it takes, it finishes. But love listens, it offers, it lingers. A man infatuated might focus on his own climax, but a man in love, he dissolves in yours. Jung would see this as the influence of the inner feminine thema guiding him to tenderness, empathy, and soul-deep connection. That's why even the smallest gestures, the way he lingers after, the way he asks, "Did that feel good for you?" speak louder than flowers or promises ever could. This giving goes beyond the bedroom. Jung saw relationships as sacred mirrors reflecting what within us still needs healing. And a man who gives freely in love is often one who has confronted those reflections. He's seen his own fears, his need for dominance, his insecurities, and through that journey, he's chosen presence over control, offering instead of taking. This vulnerability is the hallmark of real love. Not perfection, but presence. When he places your pleasure before his own, he's not just making love. He's telling you without words you are sacred. This is the fingerprint of love. It cannot be faked. And it flows effortlessly from a place no performance can reach. Because his devotion doesn't stop at the skin. It starts in the soul. And according to Jung, that's where the deepest transformations always begin. You'll notice it in the way he studies every response from your body, the way he remembers the smallest things that bring you joy, and the way he finds genuine satisfaction in your fulfillment. His attention isn't rehearsed or mechanical. It's not done to impress. It's instinctive, like your body has become a natural extension of his own. Now, compare that to encounters driven purely by lust. Lust doesn't listen. It doesn't care. It consumes. It takes what it wants without pause or presence. But love nurtures. Love watches. Love waits. A man overtaken by mere infatuation may still focus only on his own pleasure. But a man who is deeply in love, he unravels in the presence of yours. Jung would trace this shift to the presence of Thema, his inner feminine energy. It's this subtle influence that draws him toward empathy, toward softness, and a longing to dissolve boundaries, a desire to merge beyond the merely physical. That's why it's in the smallest gestures, the lingering after, the sincere way he asks, "Was that good for you?" that his heart reveals itself more clearly than through any grand display. This selflessness extends far beyond the bedroom. Jung saw intimate relationships as mirrors. They reflect the unhealed corners of ourselves, the places we've ignored or buried. A man who gives generously in intimacy is often someone who has already stood face to face with his own shadows. He's encountered his fears of not being enough, his need for control, and instead of retreating, he has chosen to step forward to serve, rather than take. That kind of vulnerability is the signature of real love. Not flawless love, but present love. So when he places your pleasure above his own, it's not just a kind act. It's a whisper from his soul, a message written in touch rather than in words. You are sacred to me, and in the end, this kind of behavior is love's fingerprint. Impossible to forge, effortless in its authenticity. It reveals that his devotion doesn't end at the surface. It begins deep within. And as Jung believed, that depth, that soul-level recognition is the root from which all true transformation begins. Number 3, post-sex affection and emotional openness. The moments that follow intimacy often tell us more about a man's true emotional landscape than the act itself ever could. Carl Jung understood something profound. Physical closeness has a way of softening the edges of the self. It quiets the ego. It lets the unconscious speak. When a man is truly in love, sex is no longer a destination. It becomes a gateway, a passageway into emotional nakedness. This is why what happens afterward matters so deeply. The way he touches you, the words he chooses, the way his vulnerability begins to spill through once desire is satisfied. These are not strategic choices. They're the psyche's spontaneous truths. Jung's concept of the shadow, the repressed. Hidden layers of our personality helps explain why so many men fear emotional exposure. From early on, society wires them to link strength with stoicism, to withdraw, to hide, to shut down once the moment is over. As if softness somehow makes them weaker. But when a man loves with depth, that training begins to unravel. His shadow, the sensitive, often wounded parts of himself no longer stays buried. It rises uninvited. He may draw you closer instead of pulling away. He might share a story from his childhood, or simply rest his forehead gently against yours in wordless communion. These gestures aren't designed. They're eruptions of authenticity, a kind of rebellion from within, proof that he doesn't see you as a temporary escape. He sees you as a sanctuary. This kind of post-intimacy vulnerability isn't accidental. It plays a key psychological role. Jung believed that real intimacy involves integration, merging not only bodies, but light and shadow, wounds and wonders. So when a man stays present after sex, when he allows himself to remain open instead of retreating, he's trusting you with his full being, not just with his passion, but with his person. It's in the absent-minded way he strokes your hair, the quiet truth in a private thought he suddenly shares. These are signs that for a moment his walls have dropped. There's no performance now, no seduction, just a man bare and real in his attachment to you, Compare this to the man who immediately turns cold, distant, or distracted after climax. While that doesn't always mean he doesn't care, it often reveals that his connection remains tied mostly to the physical realm. The ego rebuilds its fortress quickly when love hasn't settled deep. Where surrender once existed, control returns. But when he lingers, when he treats the stillness after sex as something holy, not something to avoid, he's embodying what Jung called the transcendent function. Love, in that moment, dissolves the separation between two psyches. Ultimately, post-sex affection is one of love's purest dialects. It's spoken in silence. When the body is satisfied and the mind no longer has defenses, the heart finally has space to speak. A man who opens to you here, who stays emotionally tethered when everything is quiet, is not just sharing space. He is sharing the most private landscapes of his soul. And according to Jung, that is one of the clearest signs that what he feels for you stretches far beyond desire. It is the recognition of souls. Number 4, synchronized movements and unconscious mirroring. In the wordless language of lovers, the deepest truths aren't uttered aloud. They're danced, felt, mirrored in the subtle alignment of two bodies moving without effort. Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious, that primal, inherited memory we all carry, may help us understand why two people in love often move as if they share a single nervous system. When his breath begins to mirror yours, when your limbs fold together without thought or command, when one simple gesture communicates more than an entire conversation. These aren't accidents. They are poems of biology. Proof that your connection has moved out of the conscious realm into the deep ocean of instinct. Jung believed this phenomenon had ancient roots. He called it participation mystique, a state of emotional unity where the borders between you and me momentarily vanish. In daily life, we regulate ourselves constantly. We walk with guarded steps, speak with measured tones, but love dismantles all that. When a man fully surrenders to emotion, his body no longer moves in isolation. It moves with yours, alongside yours, because something deeper has synced. Modern science now calls it limbic synchrony. Jung understood it long before it had a name. His nervous system begins to respond to yours. His gestures start to mirror yours like waves across a shared emotional field. This is not imitation, it's communion. His body, without words, is saying we are no longer separate. His heartbeat may begin to subtly align with yours. His gestures might mirror your own, like echoes across a bridge only your souls can see. This isn't imitation, it's communion. A silent declaration from the body, revealing what the conscious mind may still hesitate to admit. We are no longer two. We are one. The power of this synchronization becomes clearest in moments of stillness. When you're lying together in quiet intimacy, notice how your bodies may shift in unison, or how a sigh leaves both your lips at the same time. These micro-synchronizations are not rehearsed. They're not social habits. They're evidence of a connection rooted far deeper beyond thought, beyond language. It's a biological choreography written into the fabric of our DNA. Jung would say this is the archetype of the divine couple, manifesting in real time. That ancient, cross-cultural symbol of wholeness. Your bodies, in these moments, are quite literally remembering something your minds may have long forgotten. That love, at its most elevated form, is a return to unity. Now, contrast this with the stiff, overly conscious movements of casual encounters, where every action is controlled, calculated. Each partner remains fully aware of their separateness. Without emotional depth, the body stays guarded. True harmony, true merging. rarely ever happens. But when love is truly present, the walls come down. That ever-vigilant self-consciousness simply fades. His hand finds the small of your back at the exact moment you need grounding. Your head tucks perfectly into the curve of his shoulder, like that space was always meant to cradle you. This seamless alignment, so quiet, so precise, is not random. It's the physical embodiment of what Jung called enantiodromia, the natural drift of opposites toward each other in search of equilibrium. And what makes these unconscious gestures so deeply intimate is their undeniable authenticity. Unlike spoken words, which can be shaped or censored, the body's truth cannot be fabricated. When his body moves in subtle, seamless harmony with yours, it's the clearest sign that his psyche sees you not as other, but as an extension of himself, not as object, but as home. In those wordless minutes, Jung's theories aren't just abstract ideas. They come alive. Because in the alchemy of real connection, two separate beings can, however briefly, touch that divine unity we all came from. This is why synchronized movement remains one of love's oldest and most sacred dances, not choreographed by conscious decision, but orchestrated by the timeless intelligence of the unconscious mind. Carl Jung, the pioneering Swiss psychiatrist, believed love was never just a fleeting emotion or a social convention. He saw it as a profound psychological event, a sacred collision between the conscious and unconscious realms. At the heart of his theory lies anima and animus, the hidden feminine within every man, and the hidden masculine within every woman. According to Jung, every man carries within him an inner feminine image thema. This image is shaped through his life, his early experiences, cultural impressions, and emotional imprints. So when a man falls deeply in love, he isn't just attracted to a woman. He is encountering something far more mysterious, a mirror of his own soul. That's why the right partner doesn't just feel thrilling. She feels familiar, as if she has always been part of his internal world, long before they ever met. And the stronger the pull, the more his thema aligns with her very essence, creating what can feel like a mystical, even fated, recognition. This is why some loves feel like destiny, like they were written in the stars, because in a way, they were written inside him long before she ever appeared. But that projection is only the beginning. True intimacy, as Jung saw it, requires something far more courageous, the willingness to let go of the mask we wear in our everyday lives. Most men are taught to suppress their emotional sensitivity, to armor themselves against being judged or seen as weak. But when love cuts through that armor, something profound happens. The unconscious, the vast inner territory that holds his fears, instincts, and raw desires begins to quietly take over. He no longer just wants closeness. He needs it, in a way that feels primal. And that's when you begin to notice the signs. Not grand gestures, but subtle shifts. He shares memories from his childhood without prompting. His posture softens. His touch becomes more tender, reverent, without even realizing it. These aren't strategic decisions. They're involuntary surrenders. The soul leaning forward before the mind catches up. Jung believed the unconscious speaks clearest during intimacy, not just through words, but through sensations, through symbols, through instinctive acts that bypass logic altogether, like the synchronized rhythm of breathing between lovers, or the way a man's fingers move with almost sacred gentleness when his heart is fully involved. These aren't just signs of romance. They are the unconscious weaving two beings into one experience, In Jungian language, this is love as alchemy, transforming the raw metal of attraction into the radiant gold of union. And when a man is truly in love, his unconscious betrays him in the most honest and beautiful ways. So how do you recognize this hidden psychology in real life? Especially in the most intimate of moments, the answer lies in 4 deeply revealing behaviors, acts so raw and instinctive that they move beneath conscious control. These aren't techniques, they're not performances. They're the unguarded language of the heart, the body's purest confession. Let's revisit them. Deep, unwavering eye contact, selfless giving and prioritization of your pleasure, post-sex vulnerability and emotional openness, and synchronized, instinctive movement. Together, these 4 unconscious behaviors form a silent vocabulary, the quiet rhythm of a man's devotion. Jung's wisdom reminds us love is never just a feeling. It's a truth the body writes in moments where the masks fall away. So if your partner does these things, know this. You're not just sharing flesh, you're sharing soul, a bond that moves beyond what's ordinary into something timeless and real. Now we turn to you. Has your partner shown you these subtle signs of deep love? Have you experienced other unconscious moments that revealed his true heart? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. We would love to hear how love speaks in your life. If this reflection through Jung's lens touched something in you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more relationship wisdom rooted in psychology. Want to explore further? Let us know if you'd like the next video to dive into Jung's red flags in relationships, the hidden signals that a connection might be unhealthy or unfulfilling beneath the surface. Until then, remember the body never lies about love. Listen to what's whispered beneath the words, and you'll always know where you truly stand.